Good evening, everybody. Welcome in to tonight's episode of the Faithful Dogs podcast. I am Tyler Johnson. I am joined by Zach DeFranco, Jack Robinson. Gentlemen, how are we doing this fine evening?
Jack probably feels great. Huh?
I'm doing fantastic, man. I'm just so happy that we finally have a defensive coordinator. It's been 3 years since we've had one, so I'm really happy.
All right,
Man,
over
you can't even
under
let
Tyler.
Joe Woods leave in peace, can you,
Tyler,
Jack?
over under on when he starts saying fire Jim Schwartz. What's the over under on that?
After the Browns give up a touchdown for the first time next year.
Oh, come on. I'm not that bad.
Oh, man. But before we get in to all the news regarding the Browns' new defensive coordinator hire and much more, if you guys are joining us tonight on Facebook, Twitter, please make your way over to the YouTube channel where you can go and subscribe for free. We are trying to reach 1,000 subscribers before the end of the winter, and we are so close to doing so. We are less than 100 away. So if you guys would go over and subscribe to the channel for free, we would really appreciate that. And also, like you guys are doing on all the videos that we've been putting out on YouTube, go drop a like on this video as well. It helps the channel algorithm grow and helps the channel Network 216 grow as well. So thank you guys for doing that. And Real Browns Fan 32, here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Yeah.
I feel some excitement already. We do have
some excitement. There's a lot to be excited about. Frank Floor. Yep. Yeah, let the Schwartz be with you. Oh, hey, I love that saying. We need it on a shirt. Before we get into tonight's episode, though, we do want to take 1 minute and hear from our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy.
What's up, everybody? We know that daily fantasy never stops, and Network 216 is proud to be a partner with Underdog Fantasy. Very simple to use. All you have to do is go to underdogfantasy.com, and you will just click the sign in button. You'll create an account if you haven't done so already. If you've not created an account, it'll ask you to enter code 216, and they will double your first deposit up to $100. Underdog Fantasy, live draft lobbies that you get to compete with you and your friends. It's no salary cap like DraftKings and FanDuel. You get to go to a draft lobby, pick the players you want, or you can do daily pick'ems, which give you access to all the NFL and NBA games for you to make your picks every single night. Again, go to underdogfantasy.com or use the Underdog Fantasy app on iOS or Android. Use code 216 to double your first deposit up to $100. Sign up today.
Gentlemen, may the Schwartz be with you. The Browns have a new defensive coordinator, and it isn't just any defensive coordinator. It is the Super Bowl champion and legend, former Browns employee under Mr. Bill Belichick. Jim Schwartz has become the Browns' new defensive coordinator. First off, before we get to some of just what was a legendary press conference today, how do you guys initially feel about this hire?
I love it. I personally love it. I said last week too, that's kind of the more seamless hire for this defense based on personnel you already have. Obviously, you'll see defensive tackles. It's going to be probably our biggest, needs and things we address in the offseason. But it's great. I feel like it's so great for Miles, especially if he brings that wide 9 here as well. I think you'll finally see Miles staying healthy all year, knock on wood, up there with defensive player of the year, total sacks, up there with Watt, you're going to see. So it's just way better for the entire defense in general. I'm very excited about it. I know people really wanted the Flores hire. That dude's going to go be a head coach again. He's not going to come here for 1 year. Hope there might be a chance here. Who knows? The more you think about it, I wanted Flores too, but the more you think about it, that dude's he deserves to go interview for a head coach. And I think they just knew that they had their guy in Schwartz. So it's good. It's good for the team. I like it.
Yeah, I think that this is probably the best overall choice. Obviously, we all wanted the big splashy Brian Flores. We wanted some of these other guys who now are looking like they're either going to take head coaching jobs or be elevated in their own on the teams that they're currently on. But Jim Schwartz, I mean, he's a guy who has an incredible amount of experience at the position of defensive coordinator. He's had head coaching experience. Obviously, like Tyler said, he was the defensive coordinator for the Eagles when they won the Super Bowl. This guy comes in, he has a culture, he has expectations, he has a system, and, he has respect to the players because he is just one of these guys who has proved it in this league that he knows what he's doing, that he has, the ability to win games on the defensive side of the ball. So I'm super excited. I'm super happy that he was the guy because we've been hearing all these other names of guys, and then of course all these people saying, well, hey, if Brandon Staley gets fired, maybe we'll get him, which I don't understand how anyone would have ever wanted Brandon Staley after the pathetic display we saw on Sunday, but or on Saturday. But Jim Schwartz was the easy hire, seamless transition. He comes in, he immediately is a huge voice in that defensive locker room. He gets a bunch of respect probably from, I'm sure, all those guys, and he's going to come in and he's going to do work. He's going to do his job.
I think, too, with Jim Schwartz, what people have to ask themselves, and I had to ask myself this, too, because I wanted Brian Flores. But when you really think about it, would you rather have Brian Flores for 1 year? Because if Brian Flores does what you believe he would do and transform this defense into a top 10, top 5 defense, he's not going to be here next year, especially once this lawsuit settles against the NFL. He's going to be a head coach. So do you guys really want to go and do this again? Like, do you really want to go through this again next year? Or do you want a guy, Jim Schwartz, who's already one of the most respected and qualified defensive coordinator candidates, one, available, but two, just in the NFL in general? And that's what I said is there's some people that are really going to complain. And I said it's people that are complaining to complain just because they're not. The Browns went out and actually got the most experienced and well-qualified candidate available. And you can't ask for anything more than that.
It's from the same tree as Flores too. So it's really, you're fine. Like you guys are getting someone from the Bill Belichick tree as well. So
And I'm mostly happy that they came out right after the season and they made it clear, like, we need to upgrade at this position. And they went out and within 10 days upgraded the position. Like, obviously we had all these other candidates like Brian Flores. And I think that if this organization didn't maybe, have such a clear and obvious need at the defensive coordinator position, like if the situation this year wasn't as terrible, they might have waited. They might have said, oh, let's keep interviewing these candidates. Let's see what Brian Flores does and blah, blah, blah. But I think when they saw that, maybe Flores wasn't going to work, maybe Flores was keeping his options open, and they saw that he maybe wasn't all in on this job, they said, we want the guy who's all in. We want the guy who's got probably the most experience out of everyone being a defensive coordinator, a guy that has seen massive success in this league. And they said, you know what? We're not even going to leave it up to chance. We're not going to leave it up that maybe if we wait too long, this guy, slips from our fingers. We want this guy now. And they took hired Jim Schwartz. Again, it's a great hire. It's an awesome hire. It's definitely a hire that shows that this front office means business and keeping, their club competitive, and they're not going to take substandard coaching anymore.
And I think too what this says is Jim Schwartz is a guy that first and foremost is not going to put up with nonsense whatsoever.
No.
One of the things that you can tell about Jim Schwartz, and you didn't even need to ask him about it, and Jacob says it, hold your best players most accountable. Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, all these leaders of the team, and there will be a good amount of guys brought in. He's going to set the standard from day one. And I loved what he brought up about former coaches he was around, including one, it sounds like, that's passed away that he worked with. I don't remember the name at the top of my head, but he talked about he could chew out a guy right on the field, last play of practice. As soon as practice is over, they'd be having a funny conversation together. And I think that's the type of coach that Jim Schwartz is.
Yeah, because he said he just instantly lays the groundwork. This is the kind of coach I'm going to be, but this is the kind of person I am too. Like it's a respect thing. Like when you're on the field, when you're in between those lines, it's football, it's business, And he said that he could. I forgot what team he was talking about. I think it was Philadelphia during the Super Bowl years, where he had a player on the team that was their star on their defense.
Malcolm Jenkins.
Malcolm Jenkins. Thank you, Tyler, for reminding me. He said I'm going to get you in film for that, right? We're going to watch that in film. And now he had Malcolm Jenkins saying, I don't want you to treat me any different than anyone else. And that's what you got to bring to a Super Bowl roster. You need these leaders to be like, no, coach me as hard as you're coaching the guys on the practice squad, No one's different.
that's also
Yeah.
something that's super key for ensuring that there isn't the miscommunication issues that we're having, because we've been hearing this stuff about how, you know, the coaching staff and the players just aren't on the same page a lot. And I think that Jim Schwartz isn't going to be a guy who's going to let miscommunications happen, not because he's going to be upset about it. Well, obviously going to be upset about, because he's going to make sure that everybody, if you make a mistake, he's going to say, hey, you made this mistake and this is how you can correct it. This is how you're going to correct it. We're going to like focus on it. And, you know, he makes sure that everybody knows that, because that's something that you need to do. You need to make sure that everybody is treated the same, is basically given the exact same treatment. And, you know, just the fact that he has a repertoire and a history of doing that, I mean, that's going to make it so that players who are, you know, open to coaching, which I'm sure that basically all good players are open to being coached, they're going to like this guy. They're going to like the fact that he's going to be open and honest with them at every opportunity and help them get better, because that's really what that is all about.
Do you guys remember what player? Do you guys remember what player it was that said something about Joe Woods that was like not focusing on the fundamentals? Do you remember who that was?
John Johnson.
Yeah, I think it was John Johnson. John Johnson has said a lot.
Did you notice that? But did you notice that Stefanski said something about Jim Schwartz was he focuses on fundamentals? Like he's,
basically called out John Johnson, saying that we're not going to have that problem anymore.
I really
sound like to me.
That's what it feels like to me too. So
about how this hire came about, guys. So it was reported here Monday night by Mary Kay Cabot that the Browns had an excellent interview with Seattle defensive assistant and former Bears defensive coordinator Sean Desai, and it was termed excellent. There was no other reporting on that on any other candidate, and it said the successor could be named earliest Tuesday. Now, once you guys heard that, be honest, were you thinking Jim Schwartz or were you thinking it was going to be Sean Desai? Because for me, I was trying to learn about Sean Desai more, because Mary Kay Cabot's very connected with the owners. Like we know that. Very connected with Dee Haslam, and anyone who wants to might not like her, that's fine. But there's no one more connected than Mary Kay Cabot when it comes to breaking Browns news. And when that came out, I was doing research on Desai, talking myself in, wanting to give that guy a chance. What were your guys' thoughts when you first heard that news come out?
I wasn't necessarily thinking that it meant like he was the guy, honestly, because she never really alluded to, oh, it will be him either. You know, she just said, oh, that went excellent. Now it seems like they're going to make the decision fast. The reason that I didn't really think that is because, like, so they interviewed him that one day and then just, okay, that he's our guy the next day. So I felt like they just knew it was Schwartz in a sense. I really do think it did come down between him and Flores, but I feel like what's coming with Flores is, like you said, Tyler, either he's going to get a head coaching job this year or the year after. He'll only be here for a year to change the culture. And then, like you said, you got to do it all over again now and find someone that their players respect more than Flores now, because they're just going to get 1 year of him and buy into that system, and then, oh, see you later. So,
and Zach, I think to add on that too, real quick, sorry, Jack.
Yeah,
to add on that too is I don't think they wanted to wait for Flores. Like they wanted to know. I don't know this for sure, but they could have called Flores, his agent. Is this a job you're wanting? Because they also weren't just going to be hamstrung like they've been in the past and wait and miss out on the guy they want.
Yeah.
Instead, they went out, got the guy they wanted, and did it in. Honestly, this is one of the quickest hires of any. I mean, Browns.
Yeah, it was fast.
Yeah.
So they got it done. It shows they mean business, for one, and two, like it's time to, they know what roster they already have built and what they're going to build on top of it. They know it's a Super Bowl ready roster. It is. The window is now, so they want to get that coach that's buying in just as much as they need the players to buy in. And I think Jim Schwartz fits that mold perfectly.
And I think it was especially telling that, I mean, we were hearing the name Jim Schwartz like a day after Joe Woods was released. Like we were essentially hearing like right away, Jim Schwartz is 100% a candidate. And then obviously like the next day we hear about Brian Flores, we hear about a couple other guys. And now we're at the point where obviously like Tyler's talking about Sean Desai being considered. And obviously I was, speculative about like how big of a candidate is Sean Desai. Obviously he's a really interesting candidate, just considering that he is kind of really high up in the Seattle Seahawks organization. So that kind of, talent that he has, and, the fact that he has like the ability to manage kind of like an assistant head coach, like that would be something that's interesting. But at the same time, it was always just kind of they were very clear that they wanted Jim Schwartz. Jim Schwartz was the number one guy that we heard about first. He was the first guy that they interviewed. He was the one guy that we heard so much about, and that I think all of us knew was like, if we were talking about the easier transfer of scheme and just personnel, and in terms of just how good he is as a defensive coordinator, just that he would be like one of the best guys to bring in to really establish a culture, then I think that it really was kind of clear that if it's not Jim Schwartz, then it was probably going to be Sean Desai. But I don't think that unless they ruled out Jim Schwartz, that I thought it was going to be probably Jim Schwartz the whole way, especially after all these new head coaching jobs opened up. Like once the Cardinals job opened up, I'm like, ooh, Brian Flores is probably going to try to jump in on that. Like there's just no way that he's going to leave that open. I mean, Denver's still open. Like we have a lot of different places that Brian Flores is probably getting torn apart. And I was kind of saying earlier, like, they didn't want to wait. They didn't not want to keep this position open for very long. They want to get that guy in there and show like, hey, we're serious about this and we want to get our guy. And I think Jim Schwartz was always their guy.
And I admire it, man. I've wanted this team to, when it comes to situations like this, take the initiative, go get your guy. Don't have a super long process that you carry out and possibly miss out on getting the guy you want. Go get your guy. And that's exactly what they did. So have to admire the way they handled it. Some quotes from the press conference today, and then I just want you guys kind of weigh in. Some ones that really stuck out to me is we run a very D-line friendly scheme. This is from Browns defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz today. Eliminates a lot of conflict for those guys. We can play guys off of that. I've talked to a lot of offensive coaches and QBs. The way you impact the game is pass rush. And he said, I've had a lot of defenses in my time. The thing I take the most pride in is when people say we played fast and aggressive. So as far as those two quotes, I mean, what do you guys take with what we're going to see next year from a Jim Schwartz-led defense?
Top 5.
I need to see the personnel we add before I can say that. I think, I mean, dude, keep in mind the Browns.
I think if Jim Schwartz had the Browns defense last year, we're at least top 10 defense.
I'd agree with that. I think this year, and again, people want to see way better. Dude, if you had a top 15 defense, you're probably a playoff team this year.
If you have top 20, I think Jacob said that yesterday on the Barking Browns. If you have top 20 defense.
If you had an even moderately below average run defense, you're in the playoffs. It's not even close. A moderately average, below average.
Get rid of the blown coverages, which Jim Schwartz said won't happen. So, I mean, okay, this is where I'm at. I think reasonable expectation, and this is just me. This is me. I think in the 10 to 15 range. That's me. I need to see who we add.
Well, yeah, with our current roster, I think that we can agree that, I mean, we have an elite secondary. We have really good guys in the secondary. Maybe safety is a kind of question mark, but D tackle is really the big thing. And obviously, within our current state, I think that just having Jim Schwartz there we'd probably be like an average to below average defense just with how we're currently constructed. But hopefully in this offseason, we can see some moves that maybe get us up into that top 15, top 10 territory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think you will. I mean, we're definitely going to. I personally believe the smartest route to go, and I think that route they're going to go is to spend just strictly on defense and free agency. I know people want to add one more wide receiver, whatnot. I think you're going to draft for the future on offense. I keep saying that, and I just think that's what's going to happen.
Every year we see certain cuts that just surprise us. And again, I posted on Twitter, but I'm going to tell you guys, I never once said this is going to happen, but there are always guys that you look at the way their contracts are structured and you look at where their team sits and the money that they're owed. DeForest Buckner in Indianapolis, the Colts can cut him and save $20 million against the cap. My bad, 19.7. But then that year after it'd be $20 million. They would save that. They can also trade him. DeForest Buckner is one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL, 28 years old. There is a way. He's not going to be cheap. You would have to give up your second round pick. But if he gets cut, I'm telling you, DeForest Buckner's a guy. If you guys want Daron Payne, I think DeForest Buckner's better than Daron Payne. you want DeForest Buckner in free agency. If he gets cut, I guarantee you the Browns will at least inquire on him because he is exactly what Jim Schwartz wants in the middle of his defensive line. And you put DeForest Buckner next to Myles Garrett, that's scary. Deron Payne does not come close to DeForest Buckner, just so people understand on that end of things.
He's gonna be pricey for sure. He's gonna be pricey, but I mean, you put him next to Myles Garrett, like you said. I think a player like Buckner helps young players like Perrion develop better in the league as well. Takes a lot of pressure off of them too, So my only question is what you're gonna do at the other end, the other edge.
Yeah.
That's my only question. Would you
hopefully Alex Wright just develops you kind of throw him to the fire, not to the fire, I guess. He got some pretty decent reps this season. But you put him on that side with Perrion, and you just kind of tell them, hey, you have to win your ones because these guys are gonna. Because I mean, Myles is gonna get double teamed. Buckner's probably gonna almost get double teamed. You can't leave either of those guys on an island, so you guys just have to win. And if those guys are supposed to be the sort of answers at those positions for the next couple of years, which is why you drafted them at the positions you did, kind of like in the middle of the draft, then they have to just be able to progress to that point. So, I mean, if that is the way we go, I could see that Alex Wright is kind of thrust into that left tackle or that left defensive end position.
I think they're going to continue to try and fill it with a veteran defensive end and let Alex Wright grow, because Alex Wright just needs growth at this point. And him rotating is seriously, I think, right. Because, again, he came from UAB. He came from a smaller school, non-Power 5. Let him learn under Jim Schwartz. Let him learn under whoever they bring in. I think Robert Quinn is a name to watch. He's going to be up there in age a little bit. He's got a lot of experience.
Isn't he like 33 now?
Huh? Yeah, but Jerry Hughes was a guy the Browns were interested in last year. That dude's 34.
True.
So, I mean, I think they want a veteran end alongside Myles Garrett until Alex Wright can grow into that particular role. But, again, we'll see what happens there. Another quote that really interested me, and it caused a lot of arguments on Twitter over this. Jim Schwartz, on where he is with the defensive staff. He said, "This is Kevin's staff. He has hired me as defensive coordinator. That is all I can say on that. That is Kevin's job. My job is to coach players, but also sometimes coach coaches into what we want to do."
Mm-hmm.
How do you guys feel about that quote? That caused a lot of commotion on Twitter.
Because I think a lot of people think like he's going to strictly just pick the full defensive staff. Is that what you guys expect too with Jim Schwartz, or any defensive coordinator? Like, obviously the head coach is going to have a say who's on his staff. It's still his entire
collaborative
staff. Yeah.
Well, I think one of the big things is too, remember that Joe Woods, Kevin Stefanski, and Andrew Berry were all kind of brought in at the same time, like to collaboratively build the staff in the first place. So obviously some of these guys might have been said like, they might have been like, hey, Joe likes these guys or something like that. So they're brought in, and Kevin kind of has his stamp on it too. Cause obviously he's the head coach. It's his staff. He gets to kind of pick who does and doesn't come. I'm sure if Jim comes to him and says, hey, I want this guy on my staff, I want this guy to be here, Kevin's not going to say no. Kevin's going to be like, of course, we'll get that guy in here. And will they fire some of these guys that they had under Joe? Maybe, or they'll just relegate them maybe to lesser positions or move them around or just give them a different position. But I don't think that this is one of those situations where Jim Schwartz has no flexibility on who is on his staff. He's going to be able to probably pick and choose a couple of guys to bring in. And he'll if those are the guys he wants, I'm sure that Kevin Stefanski will be more than happy to give those guys a job.
Yeah, I think people just hear that and they're just like, oh, Kevin Stefanski, oh, he's the one hiring these guys. Oh, we're in trouble now. That's just not – it's a collaborative effort. Kevin is the head coach. Like, everything Jim Schwartz said is accurate. Kevin Stefanski and Jim Schwartz are going to work together to put together a defensive staff. And that's going to start with Jim Schwartz getting to know the assistant coaches the Browns have and determine if there's anybody who he wants to keep. And here, just a little bit, we are going to play stay or go with some of the position coaches and see if we would keep any of those defensive coaches on staff after what was a fun year. On the defensive side of the ball. But the last quote, guys, this was a fantastic quote because people are so afraid of analytics. Jim Schwartz was asked on the analytics and the evolution of it in football. And he said, I don't know if there's ever too much information. The balancing act is separating the signal from the noise. What helps put the players in position without slowing them down. You can get too bogged down in it. I do believe there can be paralysis by analysis. I'm a big fan of more information if that helps players play faster and coaches coach better. It is an important tool to help you make important decisions, but it isn't always paint by the numbers. You have to color outside the lines. And I think it's just incredible because Jim Schwartz admits he's been using analytics ever since it became available. And I think he shut down the fact that, well, the Browns use analytics, they suck. What were your guys' take on his thoughts on analytics and how it affects football?
Dude, all these coaches basically use analytics now. Every NFL team uses analytics in a way. Is there any NFL team that you guys think doesn't? Maybe, yeah. Like
Bill Belichick uses analytics, I guarantee you.
Exactly.
Every team, like no team is just not going to use information that they think can help them win. Like
every business uses analytics, dude.
It just doesn't really make sense. I know that there are a lot of people who maybe like look at some coaches or, I mean, I'm sure like Dan or who's the coach in it's Dan Quinn in Detroit, right?
No, Dan Campbell.
No, Dan Campbell. That's right. I'm sorry. Like, I'm sure people look at Dan Campbell and say, that's a football guy. He doesn't listen to analytics. That's a guy who he goes from the heart. Every single one of his plays is just what he thinks is the best in the moment. And he's a football guy. That guy has an analytics team. That guy had like every NFL coaching staff, every front office has an analytics guy, has an analytics department that looks at all of their plays, all of their decisions. It basically says, which ones are the most likely to let you win? Which ones are maybe less likely and should probably be eliminated? And that's just something that's going to always happen. That's always going to be there. We're in a different era of football now where it's just we have all these new stats and people who are willing to track them and willing to disperse them amongst the football world. So people are going to use them. And that's just how it's always going to be, no matter how much you may think that people aren't going to because of some arbitrary football guy versus analytics guy nerd thing.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, there was one more quote that stuck out, and I don't know how this doesn't make you want to run through a wall. Jim Schwartz, I feel a tremendous amount of responsibility to the fans to get this right. There's only one place that would outdo the Super Bowl parade we had in Philadelphia, and it's the place we are at right now. I don't know how you can watch this press conference and not love Jim Schwartz, honestly. I really don't.
That's a leader right there. That's a leader of men. It's funny because he's not like super he doesn't, his voice is very rough and grungy, but he's very eloquent with the way that he speaks. Mm-hmm. Like he's very soft toned, but you can tell that like if he needs to chew your ass a little bit about what you're doing, he can definitely get on you. Like he's just really smart. He's very eloquent. And I just thought that the way that he kind of tackled the press conference almost in every single way was just perfectly done, especially that part, just like talking about how important it is to like look at the moment and say, I can coach in the Super Bowl and I don't even remember any of the plays. It doesn't matter, how well you coach in the Super Bowl because you won't remember. The only thing you're going to remember is what the result was, which was the parade. And so like the fact that he's kind of breaking it down from that perspective is that like, the only way I'll know I did a good job is when I see the results actually come out. So I think that that's a good mindset to go in with because it means that he's looking not towards just each individual performance, but performing to the highest level and seeking the ultimate prize for every NFL franchise is a Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's exciting, man. I mean, it feels like we finally have a defensive coordinator, and it's fantastic. Yeah, I don't know how fans can't be excited about it. Before we move on and play Stay or Go here to end the show, we are, I mean, believe it or not, past Christmas. It's a new year, but Homage is still releasing fantastic merchandise. And the NBA Jam shirts that we recently gave away, if you're a member of the YouTube channel, you guys had a chance to answer that giveaway. So another reason to subscribe to the channel. What are some of the products on Homage particularly that you got that just sticks out to you guys? Like at some point, that's just something I absolutely have to have.
Dude,
Oh.
see, that's tough for me because I have an entire closet full. So, I mean, I have the starter jacket. I got awesome Browns gear. I mean, honestly, dude, I think I would have to go with some more Ohio State gear. I have one Ohio State shirt from there. Their Ohio State line is crazy. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Major throwback, like great vibes for real.
Yeah, I was mad that I didn't get the starter jackets, those old school ones, like the Bill Belichick ones. I was really mad I wasn't able to get those.
Ones are
dude,
nice, dude.
Dude, they freaking sold out so fast. I wasn't able to get one.
Mhm.
Those are ones that I'm gonna keep my eye out every single time they come out with a new release, which is like all the time now. It's like every week there's new stuff coming out on Homage. I'm gonna check and I'm gonna be like, hold on, if they have the pullover, I need to make sure I get it. But they have those awesome brown starter jackets that I've been looking at and I've been wanting to consider buying it like so many times. It's been hard to hold myself back. But I mean, their Cavs stuff, I need more Cavs stuff. I don't have any Donovan Mitchell merch yet. So something like that. I have a Darius Garland jersey, being able to pair that maybe with an awesome one of those NBA Jam Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell shirts would be fantastic. But I mean, they just have such a insane variety. And the issue is that I know if I buy one, it's going to be like, well, I might as well just buy like a couple more shirts. And by the time this ends, I'm going to be freaking bankrupt. So, I mean, they just have so many great options and shirts and throwback stuff that, I mean, you really can't go wrong with anything on their site as long as it's one of the sports you like, because they have basically everything you would ever want.
Yeah, I think like you said it, Jack. I need more Cavs. I think I have one, that awesome Cavs sweatshirt with the new logo on it in maroon and gold. That's just awesome. But other than that, I don't. Oh wait, I have one other Cav shirt that's homage, but I don't have enough Cavs gear. I would say Ohio State, I'm also kind of lacking. The majority of my homage stuff is Browns, and not that that's a bad thing by any means. I need more Cavs in Ohio State though. So. Again, guys, you guys can go check out Homage. They have great deals pretty much every single day, if not, I mean, every week for sure. And if you're a first-time user with Homage, normally they give you about a 10 to 20% discount off your first order. All you have to do is sign up with your email address and subscribe to their emails, and they will give you a discount on your first order. So be sure to go take advantage of everything that Homage has to offer you guys, all the classic apparel that is available only at homage.com. And Network 216 is proud to be a partner of Homage.
Well, for sure.
Gentlemen, to wrap up the show, Jim Schwartz is going to be making some changes to his defense. There's no doubt. I mean, we know it's coming. We know changes are coming. Shocker. The question is, there are some coaches that he's going to keep and some they probably won't keep. And I'm not going to go like dig into defensive assistant. I'm not assistant D-line coach, those types of coaches. But the first one I want to bring up to you, because he actually had a job. He's going to be interviewed by the Chargers for their linebacker coach. Jeff Howard. Does Jim Schwartz keep him or does he stay?
Yeah, I think, well, I look, I'm not going to say that he did a bad job, but I am going to say that if he's already looking at other opportunities, that he might just be out the door anyways. And honestly, if he leaves and Jim Schwartz brings in his own guy, I think that would probably be for the best for both sides, honestly.
I'm saying goodbye. After that press conference. See you.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, dude,
it's tough.
Oh, we thought these players were going to play. They didn't, so we can't stop it. We can't stop people. Sorry. No. Yeah.
I find it funny, personally, that another team would want to hire him, especially after that comment. Maybe there's something I don't know. Maybe he actually is a good coach. Who knows? He's also very young, too. I wonder if that plays in his favor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's one thing.
And what people were saying is they think Joe Woods actually will find a job this cycle too. Because
as like a coordinator, or go back to being like a specific position.
Probably
coach?
Being like a DB coach.
Yeah, which he's good at. He's good as a defensive backs coach, just not as a coordinator.
Yeah, exactly. That I would agree with that. So hopefully he ends up on his feet. Okay, so it's a consensus. Jeff Howard, he's a go. We don't want him back. Okay, the next one. And I think this one, I'm curious on this one here a little bit. There's actually two of them, so let's see what you guys think. Chris Kiffin, defensive line coach. Stay or go?
That one's tough for me, man. I like Kiffin, but yeah, that one's tough. I'm personally gonna say stay. I'm gonna say stay just because I like Link. I like Kiffin, dude.
See, I think that Kiffin is a good person to keep in, just because he just the way that he also kind of. I don't want to say it's only because he broke the thing about Jadeveon and kind of made it obvious that Jadeveon's had issues this whole season. But also because I don't think that all the issues on the defensive line were his fault, and the fact that Miles still had a pretty great season, despite the fact that the rest of the defensive line didn't really live up to expectations. I don't think that's his fault. I think you give him a guy like Jim Schwartz who's going to prioritize that defensive line a lot more, and then you give him some better weapons. I think that Kiffin could be a guy that you want to keep long term. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if he got cut just simply because of how badly it underperformed last year, but I don't think that that's entirely his fault.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that'll be one of the interesting ones with Jim Schwartz, because of course, he's going to evaluate every single person on this staff and see what needs to be done, who he needs to bring in. I think Chris Kiffin is either way with him. I don't know exactly what's going to end up happening with him. I don't. But he's one I wouldn't mind keeping, because I think, like you said, Jack, it's in a position with Chris Kiffin. I don't think it was necessarily all his fault.
Yeah.
So I could see him staying. I also could see him going. You know what? I think for this one, I think Chris Kiffin's going to want to move on, and I think Jim Schwartz will want to move on. Keep in mind, Chris Kiffin accepted a job at Ole Miss to be his brother's defensive coordinator last year. I think that's a possibility that he
goes back to that.
Yeah, that he goes with his brother. So I'm going to say Chris Kiffin go. And the last one we have, well, let me make sure it's the last one. Yeah, the last one we got here. This is the one everyone assumes, doesn't assume he'll stay, but if there's one that should stay, it should be this man. Linebackers coach Jason Tarver. Stay or go?
I think you have to keep that guy, genuinely, because I think that the linebacker play actually got way better as the season went on. Even though you lost JOK and Anthony Walker, a lot of your linebackers actually stepped up pretty well and were able to, at least in some ways, manage behind that terrible defensive line, and kind of did really make a huge impact, at least in the secondary. I mean, they really stepped up really well, especially like you had like Taki really come out and really take that leap that he needed to really keep us there. Phillips did pretty good when he was playing. Deion Jones had a look pretty good towards the end of the season. So I mean, that particular position, I think, played really well. So I think that if you keep him there, and maybe you give it like a different scheme look, and you have JOK coming back, we don't know what's going on with Anthony Walker. He probably won't be back next year, at least if I had to guess. But I'm not 100% sure. I think that you would probably want to keep him, because I know that the linebacker room was probably one of the most injured rooms we had, but it was still actually somehow able to keep up at least its moderate level of production and be an actually pretty good room for the Browns, and probably one of the more consistent rooms throughout the season.
With scraps too.
Yeah, with scraps.
Literally. So yeah, I mean, I agree with that, Jack. And I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know too much about him. I'm not even gonna say.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about him. I can look at the players and what they did.
If you look at like the effort level alone too, and like that's kind of what it's about. What position groups on that defense did kind of buy in to what was getting told to them? And linebacker was surprisingly, like you said, one of the few bright spots on defense. So if I had to go based off like a fan perspective and stuff, I would say I wouldn't mind if he stayed, but trust the process. Trust the process, dude.
Trust the Schwartz.
Yes, in Schwartz we trust.
For me, I'm keeping Jason Tarver. I think he had a fantastic season. I mean, keep in mind, it was his 19th as an NFL assistant coach, his third with the Browns. I think he's one of the guys who keep. Just dealt a tough hand all the way around. Jacob Phillips going down for the year. Sione Takitaki. I mean, JOK, when JOK was down the second half of the year. Anthony Walker, you already mentioned him. Lost so much talent at the linebacker position, and continually, that was one of the stronger parts of the team with a very awful defensive tackle group. So I think you got to keep Jason Tarver. Reggie Ragland, when we play Stergo, that's someone that's going to be interesting to talk about. But basically gave himself another shot at the NFL. I mean, under Jason Tarver with the way Reggie Ragland played. So I love what Jason Tarver brought to this team, and I hope they keep him around. He's 13 seasons with the 49ers, 3 with the Raiders. He's been 3 with the Browns now. I think this is a guy Jim Schwartz is going to want to keep around. So I hope he stays. I love what he's done for this linebacker group, and he's a good big piece moving forward. As we end things here on the show, Zach, there are some really interesting NBA matchups on tonight. And if you guys are looking to go higher or lower, you're going to find no better place than Underdog Fantasy. Zach, what are some of the higher or lower props that you like tonight that Underdog has?
Oh, God, you threw me on the spot here. A lot of the games are already running, too. So, like, 8 o'clock games are already going. But if I had to go tonight, games that haven't started yet. Let's go to Utah. Utah versus Clippers. I would go higher on Lauri Markkanen. He's 25.5 right now. Even Jordan Clarkson, because he's been kind of carrying that team. Jordan Clarkson's been kind of carrying that squad right now. So I would go. His point right now is only 21.5. So I think Jordan Clarkson will go over that. But don't take it from me. I'm not a professional. But like Tyler said, like if you go on Underdog Fantasy, and next week I'll come more prepared. I probably will start doing more football ones next year too, because it kind of, obviously sports betting got brought to Ohio late, so we didn't really get a lot of Browns betting, football betting, other than the playoffs and stuff like that, which is unfortunate. But now the future is bright with that. So go to Underdog Fantasy. They'll double your first deposit up to $100, and you can. It's simple as that. If you pick like 6 winners, you get 20 times what you put down. Put down $5, win 20 times it. If you're feeling lucky, I would go do it. It's fun. It's a good way to win some free extra cash. And deposit 10, they give you 10. So no sweats on some of your bets.
I love how you tied that rhyme in together. I don't know if that was something you intended to do.
No sweat bets, dude. That's a thing. That's a thing.
No, I know. It's extremely clever the way you tied that in, though. Just like that. I love it. One of the props I like tonight, you got to get this in quick, but Atlanta's at Dallas. Trae Young to go higher than 19.5 points plus rebounds and assists. I like that one. I think Trae Young is going to turn it around. I think Trae Young's on the verge of turning around. Luka Doncic, by the way, don't overthink this. He's going over 17.5 points easily, like same game. So just some of these are just way too obvious for me. I mean, Lauri Markkanen.
Luka Doncic's already over 17 points.
Yeah,
it's the second quarter. So, yeah.
Well, dude, what's weird is this one has 9. It says 9:15, unless this thing is just okay.
Yeah, it does.
Their website, okay, they must have an issue. They must have an issue there. That could be. Okay, well, it happens. So, but yeah. Anyway, guys, I mean, Underdog Fantasy, no better place to play higher or lower. Go in, take a look. Use code 216 to double your first deposit up to $100.
Those are live bets, so you can bet on the second half now over unders. So you can go, yeah. So that they're saying Luka Doncic like 19 more points in the second half, 17 more points in the second half. So again, I would bet on that. I would still bet on that.
Anything Luka Doncic related, just always take.
He averages. He averages
He's
a
crazy,
triple double
dude.
against the Hawks. So
He's
I would
wild.
put money on him getting at least like 30 on him.
Dude, he's just a fantastic player. Could have been a Cav, but that's a story for another time.
I mean, so would it? I mean,
should have been a Hawk.
Listen. We could have had Giannis, and we took Anthony Bennett.
Hey, the GOAT. He's the GOAT.
The GOAT,
All right?
Anthony Bennett.
No one knew Giannis was going to be good, though. In all Like,
Well,
honestly,
yeah,
though.
obviously.
Like,
Milwaukee did.
Luka, you did, and the Cavs actually. Okay, we could have an entire conversation about that at some point this offseason. But as we're wrapping things up, guys, anything else you guys want to add before we get out here for the evening?
They'll be your first deposit up to $100. Go do
Yes,
it. Code
sir.
216. Code 216.
Go to
win some
Homage. They
money.
have the best shirts in the business, baby. They
Yes,
have the best shirts
they
in the
really do.
business.
Oh,
wait, are we wearing the same one? Are we wearing the same one?
We did not plan this. Now we look weird. We look so weird right now.
Hey, did you guys call each other before the show?
No.
Yeah. I took a Snapchat. I took a little selfie, and I said, "Dude, you gotta wear the shirt tonight."
Dude, this is
it's so
it's
so fire emoji.
This is fraud.
It's
this
so
is
fire
not
emoji.
True.
I love it. I love it. Well, guys, again, if you're joining us on Facebook or Twitter, go subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's completely free. We're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers before the end of winter, and you subscribe for free. So it's a no-brainer. Daily content for you. Not just a lot of it's all Browns related right now, but Browns, Cavs, Ohio State when Ohio State football is back, Cleveland Guardians, you guys name it, we'll have it for you. Again, go subscribe, Network 216. Coming up at 10 o'clock, it is a special edition of the Dog Chug featuring special guests they will have on there tonight. Special hosts, actually. So you guys are going to want to make sure that you don't miss it. Thank you to everyone that tuned into this episode, Random Cardboard. Thank you. A little ago. Thank you for tuning in. Everybody else, Real Browns Fan 32, Frank Forio, Jacob Roach. Thank you all. We'll talk to you all next week. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and go Browns.
Like, comment, sub, and watch the Dog Chug.